Hi fellow students. If you want a culturally competent environment in your early childhood context, whether it be a kindergarten, preschool or primary school, you need to incorporate texts that are from a culturally diverse environment. In particular, you should also be working to accommodate the cultures from your class or your group and be working harmoniously with families to incorporate their different cultural practices into your pedagogy. Why I've picked this story to read today is because it's an Indigenous text about an Indigenous boy and a boy who is in a wheelchair, and they are fantastic mates who live in Western Australia. It's based on a true story. It's written by two Indigenous women who are related to the Indigenous boy. I'd just like to acknowledge that I'm reading this story on the land of the Gubbi Gubbi people and that they are the original custodians of this land. Two Mates by Melanie Pruitt and illustrated by Maggie Pruitt. My name is Jack and I live in Broome, a small town in the Kimberley in the far north of Western Australia. I have a good mate called Raph and we've lived in Broome since we were babies. Raph and I have been mates for a long time. In the Kimberley, we have a wet season and a dry season. During the wet, it's hot and sticky and we get lots of rain and thunderstorms. That's when Raph and I go and catch big green frogs on my nan's veranda or go looking for tadpoles. In the dry season, it's nice and cool. Raph's dad knows some good fishing spots, and when we go out in his boats, we fish for salmon. I like catching the big ones. At home, Raph watches his dad cook the fish so he can have the first piece. Fresh salmon, rice and salad. Yum. Hunting is fun too because we go out bush with my Uncle Ned. He knows all about catching bush tucker and he makes us laugh with his silly stories. The best time to hunt for Barney is after a big rain. Barney is what we call goanna. Raph is the best Barney spotter, and if we're lucky enough to catch one, we make a fire and cook it up on the coals. On Saturday morning, we go to the courthouse markets with Mum and there are all kinds of food stalls, but Raph and I like the chicken sautés and rice. Raph's learning to play the guitar, so we eat our food on the grass where we can watch the people playing music. If it's a big tide, we go swimming at Towns Beach. As the tide goes out, Raph looks for hermit crabs scuttling across the sand, and I hunt for mud skippers in the pools of water. Sometimes we find brown sand crabs hiding under the rocks. When Raph comes over to my house with his dad, he brings his quad bike. We live close to the bush, so there are dirt hills and tracks everywhere. If Raph's driving, I keep an eye out for animal tracks or lizards on the rocks. Every now and then, we stop to collect feathers and seeds to show Nan. One time, Raph and I dressed up in capes and we pretended we were superheroes flying through the air. The quad bike was our spaceship as we travelled around the galaxy, stopping off at planets along the way. When we go to Raf's house, we spend most of our time splashing around in the pool. Raf can swim like a fish and he can dive down to the bottom. I like to swim like a frog on top of the water. Raf and I go to the same school and most years we end up in the same class. We get to share our books during silent reading, and if Raf goes to school chess club, I go along too. Whatever Raf and I do, we always have fun, and I'm so glad we're mates. The end. Thank you for listening to my story.